have there been common areas that you have seen that are great areas to look at for reducing risk, or is it always a complete different story, whatever company you're with?
There are some common threads. I mean, especially if you look at individual workers, securing their access to production environments. You need to sit down and use a framework really and start
Mm-hmm.
mapping it out and taking a look across the board. I mean, MITRE ATT&CK framework is great for taking a look for complex large environments. If you have a lot of time, it's a pretty big framework. But
Mm-hmm.
if you're focused on like production or like you're a web focused company, look like something simple like Stride or a WASP top 10 and things like that, and that will really help you with your risk modeling.
If you understand, what moves the needle for the business, then you can aim for the right targets. I was a CISO before being a CEO, and I always compared great security with the braking system for a Formula One car.
Yes.
It enables you to move faster without the concern of hitting the wall, and that's exactly what we need to drive towards.
Here's an interesting question from Eli Migdal. From your experience, from the total cyber risk, how much percentage can a CISO actually mitigate and take responsibility for?
The primary job of the CISO is to identify the risks and help develop strategies on how to mitigate those risks. There's always going to be residual risk, but it's not really the CISO's role to accept the risk. But in terms of percentage, oh man, that's like a moving target. I would say that you'd be surprised with the amount of risk that you can actually mitigate, given a good program. There's always going to be that residual, black swan type of scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
How am I going to stop an earthquake? How am I going to stop, a true APT actor from coming in if they're really determined? So there's always going to be percentage. I don't want to quantify it per se, but if I had to throw a dart on the dartboard, I would say like 80, 85%.
The CISO's role, and that's how I saw my position when I was a CISO, is actually 100% to bring the understanding and the knowledge to the board, to the executives, so they can make a decision. Eventually, it's a business decision. I think the question that CISOs are starting to, being asked on the boardroom is, if I increase your budget by 10%, by how much can you reduce our risk? Not a lot of CISOs can, give an exact answer. My mission, as I say, to help them to be able to measure it in an empirical way and to give that answer eventually.
This is a question came from Jonathan Waldrop. How do you get started developing prioritization if your executive leadership thinks everything is critical?
Go talk to the other stakeholder groups, right? So what is your company selling? How are you making your money? You do not want to go to the CEO and be like, so what do we do here? Talking to your marketing and sales folks, right? What are they selling? Talk to your legal. What are our SLAs and contracts? Go talk to your CFO. Where are we making our money? How are we making our money? And the stuff that's surrounding that will be the most critical, typically. Not always, but typically. And then you can start looking at, all right, well, we're selling all this. What type of data is it? Is there legal concerns, data privacy concerns? And start kind of molding your landscape with that to build out that contextual security environment.
Let's go to Phil Wolf, though. He's got a good question here. Are risk reduction approaches transferable to other strategic initiatives like merger and acquisition, due diligence, or choosing new markets?
When I did my first degree, I studied economics, and I brought an economic framework to explain security. So I think there's definitely different worlds aligned there. And how do you deal with the shortage problem of economics to explain security in a fact that, for example, you cannot solve everything. So how do you maximize your outcome? And there's a way to, definitely, I agree, there's a cohesive way to look at different worlds and to apply security on other worlds and vice versa.
You have to consider, especially with an M&A, either they're buying you or you're buying them. Their risk posture is going to be folded under you. And actually, like your due diligence round should absolutely include a whole risk section for security, which the CISO should lead. They should go through and apply a similar framework that the company has, because the company, the one that's doing the acquisition, should be looking at the one they're buying with the same risk lens that they're utilizing for their interior, because that's from contextual standpoint, that makes sense from their business, right? So how is that impacting my risk? That's what you need to really look at.
It's not about security for security. It's about how do you secure the business. So understand the business, build the KPIs, and test all the time. Don't assume anything.
You have to look beyond vulnerabilities. You have to look beyond your base level. Don't think about how many vulnerabilities I have in my environment. Think about how susceptible are you? How susceptible are you to that threat actor actually exploiting those vulnerabilities? That's what you need to be focusing on. If you're just bouncing off your vulnerability checklist and trying to get, 10,000, low and medium vulnerabilities down, you're out of luck, man. You're not doing it right.
Yeah.